Now, finding the perfect love match might be hard, but finding the perfect political party might be even harder. Now, to ease the stress, a group of students in Cape Town have now developed a political party dating app. It matches potential voters with their desired political party. The app matches or rejects a party based on needs. What encouraged these youngsters to create this ahead of the 2024 elections? Let's find out. One of the co-founders of Yoh Vote, Ryan Young, joined us this morning. Ryan, it's great to chat to you. Thanks very much for coming on, and I love the name of your political party dating app, and that Yoh, Y-O-H, means a number of things, doesn't it?
Yeah, morning. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, I think the big thing, like first, the country is in quite a state, and lots of people keep telling young people, no, register to vote, get engaged, and I've heard from a lot of my friends, they're like, but who must we vote for? And it's also quite a process as well, trying to understand all the different political parties, what they stand for, and there's a lot of jargon, so it's not always accessible for young people, people new to engaging with politics to understand. So that's sort of where the name came from.
Yeah, I love it. It's apt. Yoh. Yeah, absolutely get it. So Ryan, a lot of people, when they talk about the young vote, when they talk about the reasons why young people don't end up at the polls, we're told 14 million young people are able to vote, and yet they not only don't they show up, but they don't even register to vote. Would you say that discussion around voter apathy is an accurate reason for that?
I don't know. It's just quite complex, but from what I've seen with my friends, there's an understanding that they should vote, it's their duty, and that's a very important way that they can have a say in how the country is run. But they're sort of overwhelmed with the choices sometimes, or not understanding what the different political parties are. So you see it like on Instagram, people are like, guys, register to vote, make sure you properly register to vote, and people are being like, well, for who or which party? I don't understand. And then a lot of the parties' images are filtered through the media or social media, and they don't actually have an understanding of what the parties stand for. So from what I've seen, there is a hunger to become engaged in the political process, but it's not always accessible, and it's not always fun and exciting. It's not most people's idea of a good time reading the different manifestos and going through the policy commitments.
No, absolutely. So for those of us who have never been on a dating app, why this format?
So I think when we were thinking about different ideas of how we could do this, we thought about something that would resonate with young people, an experience a lot of them would have had. So there's a sort of quiz that you do. We ask a couple different policy questions, and then it matches you with your potential date. And then there's a dating profile written in quite sort of fun and accessible language, just to get an idea about the party, and just to make it more relatable. A lot of the time when there's a conversation about sort of youth engagement and youth voting, it can come across a little bit patronizing, and we wanted to create something that would speak to young people and made by young people for young people. Yeah.
So I imagine there has to be some kind of involvement from the political parties, just like you and I. If we're going to register and get onto Tinder, I would write my profile, right, my bio. Are political parties involved in that way? They're sort of selling themselves to potential voters?
So no, they're not involved at any stage. We take the information from the parties' websites and their manifestos, and then we distill the questions from that. We thought that would be the simplest and also most sort of non-partisan way. So we're taking the information directly from the parties, what they've published, and then just distilling it into more fun and accessible language, and highlighting the key points that the parties say about themselves.
So there's zero involvement from the political parties themselves?
Yes, we had quite a few discussions, but we wanted to sort of firewall it from any sort of political influence, because the biggest thing behind Yoh Vote is it's informative but also non-partisan, and we thought the best way to do that is just take the information directly from what they've published, and then not to have any, even like a lot of parties have approached us to say, can you add this or that, but we think, just from the principle, it's safest just to keep the firewall there.
Yeah. I think I do agree with that. But there is that option, right? As you get a bit further into matching with your political party, where you can take things further. Where does that stage of registering take you?
So, yeah, after you matched with the party and you read their profile, and if you like what you see, if you're vibing with the party, so to speak, then there's a link to say, take it further, and then that takes you to the party's website. So then you can engage directly with the party. You can see what they say about themselves. If you want to become more involved, you can become a member or contact somebody from the party. So Yoh Vote's mostly just to sort of start that conversation, be your entry point into understanding the different political parties and just understanding what about them, the policy positions you may like, learning about your political preferences, excuse me, and then taking it further with the party if you like what you see.
I'm trying to understand, Ryan. So this is the first page. We've got it up on our, it's the second page now that we've got up on our screen. I'm just trying to understand, depending on which options I choose from. So on the second page there it says, do you care about South Africa? 2 options, either yes or no. And then there's a little button there as well that says, confused? Click here. So how do you, in setting up this app, how do you take me to one political party depending on my replies versus another?
Yeah, so it was quite a complicated process because also some of the parties have overlaps in some of their policy positions. So we asked quite a few questions that will slowly narrow you down to a certain group of parties and then to one specific party. Obviously, it's not a complete exact science. The main aim of it is to actually just to get you thinking about what do I believe about these policies or these questions. And sort of, a lot of people have been a little bit surprised sometimes which parties they've been matched with, and they've sort of reflected and seen, okay, which questions did I answer and where did it take me there? So the main idea is just to get people, familiar with a lot of the political jargon, like with our confused button there, it will go explain some of the bigger terms like nationalization or local provincial government.
Wow.
So we try to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah,
the third page is a little bit more complex. It talks about the relationship between government and the private sector. There are different options there around how you think you would, what you think needs to be done so that there's an improvement in the private sector in terms of the economy. So I suppose the other thing that the app does is that it's also around education, right? You talk about some of these terms perhaps being new to some young people who might be engaging with the app. So it's an opportunity as well for young people to learn about these important issues as they sort of try to gauge which party they want to match with.
Yeah, so we actually had this debate when we were creating the quiz about what words to use and what language, because we didn't want to make it sort of too academic and then not accessible to people, but also these are the words used by the parties, used in the debates, in the media, on the radio. So we wanted people to be able to inform people, but also to give them the confidence to speak about these political issues, because a lot of people are scared to say stuff about politics because they feel overwhelmed or they don't understand everything, and that sort of might be driving a little bit of people's not being engaged in politics. So that was also something we wanted to address.
And I imagine, just like with any dating app, if indeed we do take things further and I go onto this political party's webpage, I suppose it will be sort of the equivalent of going for coffee or going for dinner, and I don't like what I see, I can go back to the app and start the process again.
Yeah, so when you get matched with a party, when you scroll to the bottom, you can either take things further or you can go and see the next party. And a lot of people have actually given us the feedback that they've gone and taken the quiz multiple times, seen if they answer questions differently, which parties they get, and that's also sort of built their awareness of what they like, what they don't like, and where the different parties stand in relation to that. But the most important thing before going on your date is registering to vote, because then you actually can't take the date further. I mean, that's the most important thing. We've also got a registration link on our page to make sure you fully signed up for dating next year.
Wow, stunning. I mean, 2024 is being described as probably as important an election as our first democratic election of 1994. When do you begin to gauge the success of your vote?
Well, I mean, it sort of started as an after-school project, we like to joke with ourselves. So we've already been sort of bowled over by the response. We've just been really great to see so many people engaging with the platform and responding to it positively. The main thing is just to get it into as many people's hands as possible, get them thinking about politics ahead of the elections. we're going to plan to do quite a big drive ahead of the voter registration weekend in November, and just to get as many people politically engaged and talking about politics ahead of the elections next year.
And as we round off our discussion, an incredibly important one that it is, Ryan, tell us just a bit more about yourself. What are you studying towards, and how does this fit into where you're aiming to go in the future?
So I'm a master's economics student at Stellenbosch, but the whole team, we're mostly Stellenbosch or UCT students or young professionals. And I've always been a very big politics nerd, and when a lot of my friends with the local government election last year, they didn't register to vote or they didn't know which party to vote. It made me quite sad because voting is a very important thing for the future of the country and it's a very hard-fought right. So that made me quite despondent. So I got my friends around and was like, guys, we need to, we've got to do something about this. And that's sort of where the genesis of the project, and it's just grown from there. Yeah,
amazing. Well, we look forward to checking in with you as we build up and get closer to the 2024 elections. Ryan Young, lovely talking to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. One of the co-founders of this new almost dating app, Date Your Political Parties, called Yoh Vote. Interesting to see where this goes.